Test, test, test. Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm getting. Didn't want it to get an echo. Go ahead. Go ahead and say something.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Okay. Let me turn my speaker up over here and just use this. All right. And can you hear the audio pretty good?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Sounds good. All right. We kind of just go. I couldn't get my partner in. Partner, if he does show up while we get started, I'll just patch him in. But
Okay.
let's give him about 5 more minutes or 3 more minutes and stuff like that. How's your day going?
It's going well. It's going well. I can't
All
complain.
right. And Chris, what do you do? You an attorney?
No, sir. I have my own business doing like home inspections and stuff like that.
Okay. I got you mixed up. And you were in like a local political position in Charlotte, right? You were running for council.
Yes, sir. I was I ran for city council back in 2017. So
Yes.
I was never, trying to get my feet wet, trying to get back to my community, but then I started realizing that politics isn't for everybody. So
Right.
Yeah.
You were born and raised in Charlotte?
Yes. Born and
All right.
raised. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm from New York, and also I'm gonna, I guess offline, I'll this is going to pretty much just right now, just going to a YouTube channel that's not doesn't have any views yet.
Okay.
And then it's going to go to my laptop, and I'll edit it, and I'll send you guys clips.
Okay.
I'll send you guys clips. I usually want to make an edited version, but I just want, there's no time limit. I want our discussion to be relaxed, and then I work out some of the best clips and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I like using StreamYard. It gives us the framework and everything like that. Let me just try to contact my friend real quick. See if he wants to jump in. I didn't get him. I know he said Mondays is not usually good for him, but today it can work. So. Hey, Neff, how you doing, brother? All right. How you doing on the link tonight? Are you good or? My assistant didn't contact you. I had sent out for her to contact you. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all good, man. It's just what it's recorded. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. 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 No worries, man. Yeah. So we'll. Huh? Yeah. 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 Con. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that. Well, he's still also not American, so I have to kind of give her better instructions and stuff like that. But yeah, she's new. Yeah, 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 yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I work on that. Oh, I gotta work on that. All right. Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, I wanted to chop it up with you because there's some like follow up stuff that we can do. Towards. Are you free on the weekend? I know it's a holiday weekend. Just yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to talk and chop it up and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm with the brother Chris now, so we're gonna get started and then we'll kind of catch up and see how things go. All right, good deal. All right, all right. Let's put this phone on mute. All right, yeah. So I just run right into it, kind of go into our session. How you looking on time tonight?
I'm good.
All right, because I wouldn't want to keep you too long. I know I don't want to keep myself too long, but I'm gonna um, try to make try to get all of it. Try to make my I can copy and paste it. That's what I want to do. I can get all that. All right, yeah. Um, yeah, and so this is we are here with welcome to Just Breaking Bread. We are here with our guest Chris Woodruff, Charlotte native, who's going to talk with us and talk with us about his perspective on the Israeli and Palestine conflict. Like many of us, we have a differencing of views, opinions about it, but all of us have been inundated with, a whole lot of information going on with this crisis, and so we just can't help not see it. Um, I myself want to talk about this issue. I want to tackle the issue, and I want to find out everybody's different perspectives on the issue, whether they are interested in it or not, or whether they support it or not, and um, hopefully get a deeper conversation. All right. And Chris, so yeah, we talked on Facebook, and I brought it here specifically just to kind of give us some more of a way that we can kind of go back and forth, free talk about it, and get detailed information. Um, and it's funny because I had a number of people responding, like different posts and stuff like that, saying same sentiment that you have. A lot of people felt that way. Like, from a Black African American perspective, why should we care? And I'm interested in hearing your perspective on that. Is it just don't care, don't want to hear, or kind of like you're kind of wondering how it benefits the African American community? If you're shown some things that may benefit the African American community, would that make a difference? Things like that. Go ahead, you got the floor.
So I think that in the case of the Israeli Palestinian conflict, I think that a lot of what ties Black people into that particular conflict is religion. Now, this is a religion that was given to us. It wasn't a religion that our people created, or a religion that our people agreed to have. It's something that through bondage we assimilated into that particular religious ways of thought. So when you look at it from that perspective,
And you're saying Islam.
I'm talking about Islam, or Christianity, Judaism,
Okay.
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the reason why Black people in America are in tune with it is because of religious reasons. Because if you boil it down, it really just comes down to um, Europeans and Arab conflict, and we have uh, United States is interfering into that uh, when we have no issue. So the United States always interject itself in European issues. So when Europeans are being massacred, say in Kosovo in the late 90s, we intervene. When the things are going on with Hamas and the Israeli, we intervene. But we had the Hutus and the Tutsis that were massacred in African conflict. We did absolutely nothing about. We didn't do
Absolutely.
anything about the crises that happen on the African continent. Haiti, there's no country more responsible for the condition of Haiti than the United States. So um, with all that being said, I think that the biggest issue that we have as Black people, we get tied into conflicts, uh, resolutions, or wars, or even social discourse that has nothing to do with us. And when it comes to someone fighting on our end, fighting for our people, we're out there by ourselves, because you may have certain groups that may um that certain groups, they may march with you, they may do a mural or a painting and stuff like that, but when it comes down to it, those people have either a country or a infrastructure they can always go back to. So,
Right.
and as Black people, as Africans in America, we don't have the ability to focus on anybody else's issue other than our own.
Absolutely. We're and I'm glad to hear that perspective, because you come from a perspective where you truly do care about the African American perspective, and it's not just um, or, what did they do for us, and why should we shouldn't be involved.
Well, not even the African American perspective, the African perspective as a whole.
Mhm.
Because I think that we're all connected. Our struggles are all connected.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and so, what would you say your position is? Is that from an African perspective, we should not do anything, or we should not care, or we should not?
As Black people, we
Mhm.
should not get involved. We should not protest. We should not uh, uh, get distracted with the trials and the issues that are going on over in any other area outside of our own areas. I mean, between our own people. So, um, because we don't give enough concern, there's a crisis going on in Congo right now
Right now.
that
Mhm.
we that Black Twitter or the average Black person knows nothing about.
Mhm.
As long as we're distracted by those outside conflicts, then we cannot stay attuned to what's going on our own.
Right. Um, I agree with that. Partly. Um, I kind of see it in a sense, kind of like I like to kind of call myself in a sense a Pan Africanist.
Mhm.
I do see the larger Black diaspora community. I believe that we're all intertwined. I definitely think that we should uh, pay attention to our issues first. As Black African Americans, I think we have a unique perspective, a unique position, a unique place in the world. Being in America, there is, just capitalism wise, there's just so much more opportunity. So I think that a lot of the things on a global scale, we should be leading. And I think that we should have definitely a stronger tie and connect to what's going on in Africa,
Mhm.
and even in the West Indies, Haiti specifically. Um, but coming from that perspective, I think of it as a nation building type of thing. And I think when you're thinking of your community in a larger scale of nation building, um, there's more than that comes to it than just yourself. Um, there's intersectionality, and during the civil rights era, I believe the civil rights movement and Dr. King had about a 30% approval rating
Mhm.
from the African American community. So if we were to go by that just alone, there would have been no civil rights movement, right? They had to form alliances wherever they were able to and to benefit and get this, wherever they could. Dr. King formed alliances with um, civil rights have formed alliances with a lot of people, and there were Jewish. It was a big Jewish presence in the civil rights movement. A lot of liberal, I guess non-orthodox Jews that, if you want to go to the three freedom fighters that went
Mhm.
down south, two of them were Jewish.
Well, I mean, if you want to go back then, is the Jews who weren't the Jews the ones who helped fund the transatlantic slave trade? I mean, like if we want to point the fingers, when alliances and sometimes your alliances become your foe and sometimes your foe becomes your alliances. But in military in a military mindset, in a military, when you're forming alliances and you're having these types of movements, is what are you getting out of it in the end?
Mm-hmm.
So there's been so many groups that has what's the word? They have used our struggles to benefit themselves, and we didn't get anything out of it. So as we continue to be used, we're not getting anything out of jumping into in every alliance you form an enemy because that alliance is being forged at the behest of another group.
Right.
So, like, regardless of where you are and what alliance you culminate with, I mean, at the end of the day, the Palestinians are not going to help build institutions here in America for Black people. The Palestinians and their allies, because they have very powerful allies. Iran, Saudi Arabia is one of the few things those countries agree on is that Palestine should have this, Palestine should have that. They have all these different alliances, but those people who are allied with Palestine, they're not going to do anything to help Black people here in America or in Africa. So, like, what are we getting out of this alliance? Why are we carrying a burden? Go ahead.
Yeah, and that part I disagree with. Specifically, I don't. Palestine is not able to do really anything. Palestine by themselves, but who they're aligned with. They are. But there are Palestinian groups who have resonated with African American either protesters or African American figures ever since the 60s. Malcolm X actually spoke on why we should be aligned with Palestine, and he had some connections to leaders over there. Mm-hmm. But specifically, I don't think that's everyone in the Muslim community, and I think what we a lot of times we tend to do is I don't like to make everybody a monolith, because when you talk about the Muslim Middle East or the Muslim world, they're dozens of countries, and they're different and on their take on it. But I mean, number one to speak about was Gaddafi. So Gaddafi was a big supporter of Minister Farrakhan and the Black struggle and things like that. He was also supportive of the struggle in Palestine. So I don't think that everybody that's over there.
Well, Gaddafi was African, so his allegiance, he could split his allegiance between the two. And when you talk about
well, he was Muslim. There's a Muslim country.
Yeah, but before you're anything else, you're Black. Like, before you believe in any religion, you're Black or you're African first. And he may have been a Muslim, but the reason why he supported the issues that were pro-African or pro-African, because that's where he was from. He was in Libya.
Libyans consider themselves Arabs,
and that may be
are Arabs.
Yeah, but so I think there's two dynamics, and we go back to religion, because you talk about Malcolm and you talk about Martin Luther King, and a lot of the things that they did from a religious standpoint. So if you read the autobiography of Malcolm X, he talks about his Hajj and how he went to Mecca and how what he did, and he was devout. He believed in Islam. So when he talked about Palestine, he was talking about it from a Muslim standpoint and not we're talking about African Americans. So sometimes we have to delineate between the people and the religion in itself. And when we talked about Martin Luther King was a pro-Israel supporter because of what he believed in his religion. So religion in itself, it muddies the waters, and you don't see black and white. You don't see that Muslim as my brother, or that whatever that Black person is, because you're going to see that religion first. Oh, he's a believer. But the thing is, what we have to understand is, when it comes to every other group, regardless of what the Europeans believe in. They can put those differences to the side, whether it's religion, whether it's whatever, for a greater cause for Europeans. When it comes to Asians, when it comes to the advancement of their group, they can put all that stuff to the side. But as Black people, we don't have that same ability to say, hey, let's put our differences to the side. Just like when the Europeans, the Italians don't like the Poles, the Germans may not like the French, but when it comes to getting power together, they are willing to put those issues to the side and focus on getting this money. And that's one reason why the slave master was able to put aside their religion in order to enslave people. And that's why the people who, even if they didn't own slaves, fought against the emancipation of Black people, because they were able to put religion to the side. But we as Black people, we see our religion and us all jumbled up in one, when everybody else can. Let's put this to the side for a second and let's get this money. Let's get this power. Let's get this land. Let's enslave these people. And one other thing that I will say is Saudi Arabia and a large part of the Muslim world are still enslaving Africans to this day. The Europeans stopped slavery and shadow slavery, but the Arab world is still enslaving Africans. So, like, that's what I'm saying. We're fighting for what? What do we get out of sticking our neck out for another group?
I hear what you're saying. Number one, I wouldn't put that on the whole Muslim world. I think it's certain countries. To be honest, it's Libya. Well, Libya is one of them. Ever since the fall of Gaddafi, because their past demons came back once they didn't have a strong leader. But it's not. They're not. Libya is not the only country. But no, you're very right about that. Also, I see a unity with in the enemy, right? And so the same system, the same white supremacist, colonial system that's attacking Palestinians is the same colonial system that attacks us, right? So it's a common enemy, and there's little difference from what's going on. In fact, those same factions control what goes on here in America. Just speaking up about it right now, people are being canceled, either whether it's on their job or through their business wise, or just shutting them down on social media because they're speaking up on issues like this. I did want to go to I don't know if you saw it. I had posted it up on the post that we were, but I wanted to play it really quickly and go into Mark Lamont Hill. You ever follow him?
Yeah, I know he is.
And go into what he said about Palestine. He actually is a big supporter of Palestine. He spoke on this before, before the October 7th. But I think it's worth a hear.
Stood up and spoken out against the occupation of Palestine and spoken for the liberation and self-determination.
Start that over again.
There's a long tradition of Black folk who have stood up and spoken out against the occupation of Palestine and spoken for the liberation and self-determination of the Palestinian people.
I'm going to put it a little fast. It's about 6 minutes.
And this is a word about why Black Americans should support Palestinian liberation. I first became interested in the Middle East when I became interested in Malcolm X. I read Malcolm's story, and when I saw that Malcolm in 1959 and again in 1964 had made these trips to Africa and also to the Middle East, I became interested in what Malcolm was interested in, which was thinking about black freedom on a global scale. I then went back to graduate school after my PhD to pursue another degree in Middle East studies. I wanted to know what it meant to be black in Jordan or Iran or Egypt or Palestine. Since the end of the 19th century, there has been a growing battle over the area that is now known as Israel and Palestine. Waves of Jewish immigration into the region combined with tensions over land, over employment, over law, over what the state would look like, have gotten more and more and more intense over this period of time. Over decades, we saw a greater and greater emphasis on pushing Palestinians off of the land, taking away land rights, taking away employment opportunities, and you saw resistance, you saw struggle, you saw battles, and at the same time, you also have increased anti-Semitism, you have increased pressure around the globe, which is compounded once you get to the 1930s and 1940s, because you now have this thing called World War II. Of course, you have the Holocaust, you have all these things that are legitimizing a very real need to find a safe haven for Jewish people. The question was, how do we provide a safe haven for Jewish people and still honor the fact that there are indigenous Palestinians on this land who have a right to be here? And so for that reason, we see a struggle over the region and over that particular slice of land that continues until today. To call it a settler colonial project is not to deny the legitimacy of Judaism or of Jewish people in the region. Settler colonialism is not just controlling the territory and the land, but it's actually moving onto that land and replacing the indigenous people of the land. Israeli settler colonialism is more complicated than other places. There is a long-standing and legitimate Jewish presence in Israel and in historic Palestine. And what we've seen since 1882, which is the beginning of the first major immigration, is not just a wave of people coming in, but a very organized and systematic attempt to push Palestinians out. I don't like to make apples to apples comparisons between what Palestinians are going through and what black people are going through. I don't want people to feel like the struggles have to be the same to be worth the investment in them. That said, there's a long tradition of black folk who have stood up and spoken out against the occupation of Palestine and spoken for the liberation and self-determination of the Palestinian people. Huey P. Newton and the Black Panthers believed in the struggle of the Palestinian people and showed solidarity. So you got from Malcolm, SNCC, the Panthers, Angela Davis, June Jordan. A black person standing with Palestine ain't new. There are people in the United States who say, look, black folk are catching enough hell here. We should put our 100% attention on that. And I ain't mad at people that say that. I don't agree, but I understand the impulse to say, look, cops are shooting us, the economy is collapsing, schools are broken. How can I think about someone in Palestine? We should care about the Palestinian freedom struggle first because they're human beings. And as African people, we don't have the luxury of choosing who we're going to be allied with. We have to side with all principled, humanistic freedom struggles. I don't care where they are. We can't get free unless everybody's free. That's not just some lefty cliche. That's a fact. The networks of power, the structures of power that oppress people in one country are connected to the structures that oppress people in this country. So for black folk to get free, everybody needs to be free. We have an opportunity to not just offer solidarity in words, but to commit to political action, grassroots action, local action, and international action that will give us what justice requires. And that is a free Palestine from the river to the sea. When I said free Palestine from the river to the sea, I was making a call for justice for Palestinian people who live inside the state of Israel, for those Palestinian people who are in the West Bank, and for those who are in Gaza. There are different forms of oppression and violence and occupation happening in each of those areas. And I was saying, I don't want to just talk about one of those areas. I want to talk about all those areas. And my ultimate vision is a single democratic state, one person, one vote, secular for everybody. No Jew should be pushed out. No Jew should be harmed. No Palestinian should be pushed out. No Palestinian should be harmed. For me, this is the vision. That means that the land should be free from the river to the sea. That was the argument. Some people said, oh, but Hamas says from the river to the sea. And if Hamas says it, then you must be supporting Hamas and you must be supporting a project of eliminating Jews from the area. Let me be very clear. At no point was I calling for harm to Jewish people, violence against Jewish people, for pushing Jewish people out of the land. None of that is what I'm calling for. None of that is what I believe in. We must fight for and protect Jewish brothers and sisters at all costs. Jews have a right to self-determination, to freedom, to justice, to safety, to protection, to dignity. They do, but so do Palestinians. I'm calling for Palestinian self-determination and freedom. I'm calling for the liberation of Palestinian people. And if Israel were occupied, I'd be calling for the same thing. If Jews were under attack in Israel the way Palestinians are, I'd be calling for that. The same way I do for Jews who are under attack all around the world, in Europe, in the United States, in the Middle East. We have to protect Jewish people, but it can't be the only conversation we have. We have to be able to talk about protecting Jewish people and protecting Palestinian people and protecting vulnerable people around the world. And if we can do that, now we got a real movement.
Okay. What's your take on that?
So nothing he talked about was talking about the struggles in Africa. He's saying that because we have a tradition of black leaders speaking on the Palestinian issue, that we should somehow, out of honor to those individuals, we should also, give contribution or give support to that particular group. So I totally disagree, because one, if James Baldwin, or not James Baldwin, Angela Davis, Malcolm X, if their vision was complete, then you would have a point. You don't fight, you don't start one war unless you finish another. You don't start one task, or you don't fight a war, a foreign war, without first fighting the one at home. If your house, if your wife and your kids are not in a great situation, then you can't help somebody else. So that's number one. I mean, that's a universal principle. And we are the only group that want to carry, whether it's the immigrants that come here to America, the people who come across the border, and we feel like we have to fight for them. We feel like we have to fight for the LGBTQ community. We have to fight for the Palestinians. We have to fight for every injustice. While since 1968 and 2023, we have had no movement on our own situation. So how can we continue to nobody, let me put it like this. When you're in a war, you're in a struggle, the first thing you do is you inventory, redo things internally. That should be the focus. There's priorities to war. There's steps to war. There's steps to any struggle. You need to reorganize yourself internally first. And then when you go to war, both sides lose in war. Mm-hmm. So no one is truly a winner, regardless of what the outcome is. So is what you're fighting for worth the price? And then a lot of times alliances are not built until the war is over. You understand what I'm saying? Because you build the alliances once you have equal tracking, because the UN, for example, which is a group of semi-allied people, or NATO, semi-allied people, or very allied people, they were put in place after World War II. You know what I mean? So alliances are made so that you don't have to go to war, and you have everybody can mutually benefit. But the thing is, our home is not being taken care of. We don't have the infrastructure that these other groups have to be fighting on their behalf. The people who come across from South America, or Latin America, they have banks in their country that they can loan from, independent from the structure that they're fighting to get into. And people always talk about how people from other countries can come over here and start businesses, and we can't here in America. It's because they have banks they can get a loan from where they came from. Mm-hmm. We don't have that infrastructure that we are totally independent. If you're not independent, then you cannot lean on other people's issues. And when what he's saying is what Lamont, I forget his name.
Hill, mm-hmm. Lamont Hill.
Yeah, what Lamont was saying is so focused on that region, but not the struggles of our own people. Haiti is the poorest country almost in the world. Definitely the poorest country in the eastern the Western Hemisphere. So why are we so worried about the atrocities that are going on with two other groups when we have Haiti, which is, people are dying, and they have everything that's going on in Israel with the Palestinians essentially is what is going on in Haiti. They're going through hell. They've had revolutions and wars and mass genocides, and a lot of the policies come from right. And we can do more for Haiti as Black people than what we could do for the Palestinians.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that is my view. So, like I said, for every ally that you make an enemy also. So why can't we just focus on us first, the things that we can control, and put ourselves in a position to? Because if we had a Haiti that was more stable and that's more independent, that would be better for all Black people. There'll be a lot more for us to do than if Palestine was free.
Yeah, that's a big claim, and I would say a lot of the forces that are putting down Palestine are a lot of the forces that keep Haiti tied down and corrupt. Also, it's the same enemy. It's the same Western imperialism.
I agree with that.
And I would say I don't think, and I think at this, especially at this, if they could, I think if you watch Lamar Hill, he does talk about these issues. So he talks about, there are certain journalists that, they've worked on major network news. They've worked on even Roland Martin, things like that. They've worked on these major left-leaning liberal network channels. They were the intelligent token Black guy that they use for the show. And some of the things, I understand how they have to carry themselves for their job that they have and for their audience. So they have to be a bit balanced. I give them credit. So I still give Marc Lamont a lot of credit, and I still give even Roland Martin, I give him credit, that they do tackle Black issues. So in that clip, he's specifically talking about Palestine. If you watch his show other days, he's tackling all those other issues. He's tackling issues that a lot of other Black journalists are not tackling.
So I do listen to Roland Martin a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not too sure about Lamont Hill. So I will have to defer, that particular argument once I see more of his television show.
Yeah, and Roland Martin will deal with more domestic, internal U.S. African American issues. Marc Lamont Hill is he is, I would say, a bit sharper, and he actually deals with it he sounds like somebody, like a journalist from a BBC, a world perspective. He covers it all.
So with Roland Martin, like I said, I've covered him. I mean, I've watched him, and I've commented on a lot of his videos. It's more of a Black liberal, and there's a difference between being, covering Black issues and Black liberal issues. Roland Martin has not talked about the issues in Congo once.
Right.
He's never had a segment on the issues in Congo. No. He's not had a segment on what's going on in Haiti. And
he won't.
Right. Because he's so, and we know what Trump is. We know what the liberals are. We know what the Republicans, the GOP. We understand that. But all he wants us to do is go and vote. But the thing that when it comes to the likes of, say, Roland Martin, when it comes to voting, Black people are the highest minority who votes, percentage-wise, to any other minority. More than Latinos, more than. That's so right. He keeps talking about how we need to go out there and vote, but these other groups aren't voting in the high numbers as we are, but they're still able to get stuff done. Their agenda pushed.
Right.
But he will not tell you that because it is
because he's working for that
well, it's not
Liberal
that, I
left.
don't know if he necessarily working for it, but that's what he grew up in, or
That's what he grew up. Yeah, yeah,
either that's what brought him to where he is.
yeah. That's
Is
what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So I will say, like, if you put yourself first, it's nothing wrong with being selfish. Every other group is selfish except us. How many times have you heard the Jews or the Latino groups push out, black issues when it comes to reparations, when it comes to all these other different things that we have going on? So, like I said, when you are trying to get your own footing, when you're trying to get your own independence, it's hard. It's almost like I'm trying to think. When slaves in America were trying to fight for their freedom, they weren't fighting for other groups' freedoms in other places because they had to focus on themselves.
Absolutely.
So Lamar, he comes from a very intellectual but this is what Dr.
Which
Carter.
is why I think it wasn't as successful as it should have been. I mean, and done purposely, because Haiti was the first black colonized nation that was free, and they
Right.
fought tooth and nail not to let the news of Haitian rebellion spread. Even before the rebellion was complete, they fought like tooth and nail not to let the news just talk about it spread to
Right.
the Americas.
And they also put in policies. The United States put in policies to punish Haiti for breaking away when we were we directly benefited from it, because without Haiti breaking away from France, we wouldn't been able to purchase the Louisiana territory the way we did. So what I'm trying to what this is what I think a lot of us don't understand, right? Is what we don't understand is just because we have people like Roland Martin, people like Lamont Hill, or people like any name, you name it. Just because they're educated doesn't mean they're not miseducated.
Absolutely.
You can be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, and be educated, but be miseducated. And if you read the book by Dr. Carter, I'm trying to remember. He's the guy who created the what ended up becoming the Black History Month. It's called The Miseducation of the Negro. He talks about how, regardless of where we are, whether we're, as a matter of fact, he argued that it's harder to change the mindset of an educated Negro than it is to change one who's not been educated. And why is that? Because people who think that they're educated think they know how things work and they have bought into the system. And I'm not sure if you're a fraternity or whatever, but in the fraternities, you know more about Greek letters than African letters. Or Greek society, and and we hold the, what they call it, the divine nine, such on a high shelf, but it's really getting us acclimated to European culture. That's not our own. So religion, it's crazy that the power structure that put us in chains gave us the worst food, the worst housing, the worst clothes, but gave us the religion, their religion. So if we understand that, and we kind of take away that brainwashing that we have, and say, look, man, we need to focus on ourselves. No other group that is oppressed or have issues or fighting for freedom, they do not go and fight for someone else's issues until their issues are solved first. No other group.
I would correct that. I said they would not go and fight for another issue that would not be strategically aligned to benefit them. Because I think at this point of the game, and it doesn't actually matter where you're at, you can walk and chew bubblegum, right? And we can definitely walk and chew bubblegum at this point.
So,
Mhm.
so here's another analogy.
Mhm.
The difference between a light bulb and a laser is focused,
Right.
and a laser can go through walls. A light bulb, so the walk and chew bubblegum is analogous to a light bulb. Yeah, you can have light. I can shine light everywhere I want. But when you have a laser that's focused, it can go through anything.
Right. And and I don't know if I want to expand on that analogy. I think a laser should be used for short distances. You can't laser to the to the whole other side of the earth.
Mhm.
Just a circumference of the earth just won't even work. But I'm not going into science. What I'm saying is just to kind of make that analogy. I think that the laser would be for our short-term goals, but I think you do need a bright light, the sun, to light up the whole half of the earth, daytime, nighttime, whatever it is, to reach further goals. And so I think that when there's a strategy, everything is a strategy. So I don't think the course of life, the course of communities, the course of African American community, what we need to do is always going to be a straight line. We're going to be cutting and turning and looking at and having to regroup and decide on the next strategy and the next strategy and the next strategy. And it won't always be straight line. It'll be this way, that way, and this way. And I think that that's where I feel like I think that we can walk and chew bubblegum, because there may be more than one thing going on at one time. You may just have to play your part. I may just have to play my part.
Mm-hmm.
We all may just have to play our parts. But in the communities that we're in, then we should be laser focused on what we're concentrating on. If you're focused on with your business completing a contract, with here in Concord, well, you know what? For the next 3-6 months, if that's what you're focusing on, that needs to be your laser focus. And if I can help you, I would, but I would not spread you thin where you're focusing on those contracts. But then I'm also like, hey, try to get a contract in Tennessee, try to work on this. It's going to spread you before you even accomplish your goal of your contract here. So I think that's where we might need to be laser focused and things like that. But I think on a larger scale of things, there may have to be more than one thing going on at one time. But how I see the conflict going on right now, I see it two things. It could have been anybody dying right now. I think that just showing basic compassion for humanity, we have to show some of that. And so I don't think we don't necessarily have to go to bat and send soldiers. We don't have to necessarily go to bat and send money. We don't have to necessarily go to bat and send time. But it could be just something as small as showing our word of support. There was a reason why they were so adamant of not letting the news of the Haitian revolt spread to the slaves. There's also a reason why they were so adamant of not letting Farrakhan. There was a trip he was taking overseas. He was going on a trip. This was back in the 90s. I think it may have been after the Million Man March, and he had an opportunity to get funding from one of the Muslim countries. I think it was like over $1 billion. I think it was from Gaddafi, and they blocked it in Congress. Like the State Department blocked it because they said that would be considered, because of Libya at the time was on certain sanctions or things like that, that would be considered money laundering. I don't know what they came up with, but they blocked it, and they did not want to see that alliance. And he was literally going to give Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam money to go on the ground for whatever, rebuilding efforts. So they don't want to see a more engaged, a more enlightened African American community, because they want to see us stumped off of the same issues that we've been stumped on. And we've been stumped on lower level needs, right? And we're just stuck on lower level needs. And everybody's like, we can't go above lower level needs because that we're being held there. And if you're always going to be at lower level needs, you're always going to be fighting for supremacy of just lower level needs. You know, nobody's elevating. And once you're elevated, you realize that you can do more things at one time. You also realize that, you getting to where you need, you kind of triangulate to get to there. You don't kind of go straight through it, especially when, the enemy just wants to place a block right in front. So you kind of go, with many angles and things like that. So I feel, so I said a lot. I'll let you go ahead.
So when you're fighting an enemy that's stronger, bigger, and more powerful than you are, you have to choose your battles.
You have to choose your battles. Absolutely.
You have to be selective. The guerrilla warfare is based off the principle of focus your attack where the enemy is the weakest and retreat when the odds are not in your favor. That's guerrilla warfare. And that's how smaller groups have been able to defeat larger, more powerful individual groups by being selective, hitting where it hurts the most, and retreating when the odds are not in your favor.
Right.
Us joining in to fight against the Europeans about issues that are going on in Palestine or Israel is not, those odds are not in our favor. There's no strategy about that. And Sun Tzu in The Art of War, he said, you prepare for battle and then you go to war. You don't go to war and then prepare for battle.
Right.
And that's what we're doing when we jump in every other group's struggles. That is exactly what we're doing when it comes to our own situation. Every group uses the Black community's pathways and to advance their own people. But we cannot use anybody else's struggle to benefit us. It doesn't. It has never been like that. So until we understand that, until we say, enough is enough. The LGBT movement came off the civil rights movement. The Stonewall riots happened in 1969, a year after Martin Luther King was killed or was shot and killed. It was because of the Civil Rights Act that allowed all these other groups from India, China, and whatever other group it is to come to America, because before then they weren't allowing people in. And then they're also using the civil rights to dilute our issues when they call us people of color. When Indians or when Hispanics, when they talk about their people, they don't lump everybody into one group. We have this post-traumatic disorder.
I'm sorry. Say that again, because I missed that. You said
they don't lump other groups into their struggles. So when they're talking about Hispanic issues, or they're talking about Native American issues, or they're talking about whatever issues they are talking about their particular group. They're not. But when Black people talk about,
let me just cut in real quick. But they have a position.
When they talk about their particular group, they are talking about their own. They don't say people of color. Black people say that. As a person of color, Only time someone outside of there's not African American who calls themselves a person of color is when they're looking for something from Black people.
I understand that.
So the short of the long is, until we get prepared, because there's a lot of things that we can do now. We could talk about the misogyny, the materialism that's in hip hop. We could change that. We could change how we spend our money. We can change how we educate our children. There's so many different things, and we should be able to say, hey, we're not in a position to talk about that right now. That's not our battle to fight. This is guerrilla warfare. We can't fight every battle for every minority, even if it's the same enemy. When the Vietnamese were fighting the United States, they didn't go to the United States to fight them because they didn't have an advantage there. Right. They didn't go to the Philippines, I think, or anywhere else that the Americans were, to try to fight on somebody else's turf just because they had a common enemy. They fought on where they knew best, at home. So we have to get to a point where we're choosing our fights and we're fighting where it's going to be most effective. And we quit looking at these people, to especially celebrities, basketball players, entertainers, as leaders, to who are normally getting paid or supported by a particular group to say these things, and saying, hey, since I'm Black and Black people are on that side, then I need to be on that side as well. It's not our fight.
Right.
It's not our fight. This is guerrilla war. This is not fight an alliance and all these alliances going to come together to fight against that enemy. No, that's not. Even in an alliance, there's a struggle between the people you're in alliance with. There are things that the United States knows that they're not going to share with Great Britain, even though we are in an alliance.
Right.
You're not going to share everything with the people you're allied with, because you're still fighting to get to the top, to maintain to benefit your people first.
Right.
So until we understand that, it's chess. It's not checkers. And in chess, you don't take every piece just because it's available for you to take. You have to knock out certain people first, and then focus, come back around to devour, or it's not even about taking pieces. A low-level chess player would think it's about how many pieces.
Right.
But a high-level chess player, he's thinking about putting you in checkmate. He's not even concerned about taking what pieces you can take. You want to take my queen? Take my queen. I'm gonna still put you in checkmate. Right. So that is something that we have to get beyond. Is low level is checkers, but then there's chess and a higher strategy when it comes to how we're supposed to effectively get a movement together.
I'm gonna come back to that. I want to ask you a few questions. What is your position on that? Do you have one on it?
On position on what?
On the Israel-Palestine conflict.
It's two groups who from two different religions, who have two different views of history.
That's just how you see it.
That's how I see it, because those two different groups, both of them
see them as equal.
No, I don't say I see them as equal. What I see them is that you can't tell a Israeli that that's not their home because God gave them that land. You can't tell a Palestinian that's not their home because God gave them that land. So if God gave it to them, and that's what their religion entails, like, there's no type of fact or reason that's going to get them out of it.
Mm-hmm. And you don't see anything wrong with that. If this if you were going to be, if the Black community were going to be paid to solve this issue, whatever money that would double the money from reparations, what would you do? What would you propose? Who would you say is right? Who would you say is wrong? Who would you say, what would you want to see happen?
I think that right and wrong is a matter of perspective.
Yeah, but it's your job now, because in this scenario,
it's a matter of it's a matter of, like, it's not my job to judge
in this
right
scenario,
and wrong.
I'm throwing that at you.
Where I choose who's right and who's wrong.
Huh?
They all should be able to live in peace. That's hey, you're no longer what if I were to solve it, you're no longer Palestinian, you're no longer Israeli, live here together. But when you can't change people's mind. Their mind is they identify with their religion and their people. But Black people, we only identify with our religion. We don't see ourselves as one people. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we could solve it. The way to solve it is take away their religion and take away their cultures and take away whatever it is, and tell them you are one people now. But you have to change the minds of the group in order to get to that point. That's the only way to do it. Those people, they're mortal enemies. They will always be enemies. Because
that's actually interesting that you said that. Because there is the view of a, they always talk about two-state solution, and I was listening to one social scientist, and he said that at this point there needs to be a one-state solution, and a one-state solution is kind of along the lines of what you said. A one-state solution will, and that's actually Israel's biggest fear, is a one-state solution, because they, because in that sense they would be outnumbered. Because you could say one state solution, and then you kind of go into what is in America. We have a one state solution, and so in a one state solution, eventually the minority gets gobbled up by the majority. Big bank take little bank, and I think that's kind of what happened with Blacks in America. We talk about ourselves like, well, this is going to do to us, but it's very hard to talk about black perspective, because I think Black perspective we've just integrated into a burning ship, and everybody has a white imperialist Black version of white imperialism ideology, and we don't have a pure Black perspective.
Well, yeah, that's because we fought so hard. The civil rights movement did not put Black people in a better position in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Integration has a lot of costs. The Black wealth gap has grown since the integration has been instituted.
Right.
So, and the reason is that as long as you didn't have, so we fought hard to give people who hated us our money. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the institutions that we have, like restaurants and things of that nature, we stopped supporting.
Right.
When all we wanted was equality, we got integration. Black folks in America has never gotten what they truly asked for. They asked for the end of slavery, and they got Jim Crow.
Right.
When they ended Jim Crow, they got mass incarceration.
Yep.
They got the war on drugs. So what I'm getting at is, what are we fighting for? Like, when we fought for the civil rights, when we fought in the civil rights movement, we were fighting for equality, but equality has never came. What we got was integration, and now the rich are getting richer, and we're pretty stagnant from where we are, where the any indicators that you have. Black folks are pretty stagnant from where we are. And when we start doing for ourselves, focusing on our own issues, that is the only way to get to where we want to be.
Right.
So I'll say this one more thing.
Right.
King said that in a lot of ways his dream became a nightmare.
Right. Because we integrated into a burning house. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he fought for all those different things, and it was only a matter of time before they killed him. When we fought for those different things, we are still fighting for the government to fix our issues.
Right.
My grandmother, and when you're growing up, you don't know how brilliant she is. She would always say, how the government is lying, the TV is lying, the media is lying, and she was just saying everybody was lying. I'm like, Grandma, come on now, not everybody can be telling a lie. But the older I got, the more I realized how much truth she was saying, and she didn't have an education.
Right.
Back to the miseducation of a Negro, when you have these highly educated people, they think that, voting will solve our issues. If we just vote and just get all Democrats in, then we will be free. But what my grandma taught me was, when you do for yourself, she had 14 kids.
Mm-hmm.
She raised them partially on the west side of Charlotte, and she had a garden in her backyard, so she didn't need food stamps. Her husband was a drunk. My grandfather, he was abusive. So when he would drink, when he got paid on Friday, he would have no money by the time he came back home on Monday. So she met him at his job.
That's right. Old school.
Yeah.
Old school.
So what I'm saying was, she was an independent.
Mm-hmm.
She had 14 kids, all of them living to this day.
Yes. So you got a family here.
Yeah, so 14 kids, all of them living, and because we were more afraid of her, and we knew what it meant to be independent, to do for your own self. And a lot of them have their own businesses and things of that nature. So I'm saying all that to say is, there's so much for us to solve, and for us to get away from. I'll give you another example. Schools. We are fighting because schools are not teaching our kids about Black history, or they're teaching their perspective of history. What are Black parents doing to teach their kids their history? Because no other group depends on someone outside of the group to teach their children about them.
Right.
So you can go on Amazon, and you can, like my kids this summer, they read the autobiography of Malcolm X. They read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, and we talked about it. So when I send my kid to school, they know a lot when they hear it, and they've already been taught the truth at home. We cannot afford people outside of our group to fix our issues within our community.
Yes.
We can't afford to look at other groups and try to solve their issues and heal ourselves all at the same time. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work.
I understand what you're saying. And that leads me into this, the theory and the science behind Al-Qaeda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is a core network that starts and is able to network out and operate with no central control. And so you have a entity that kind of operates, but it has to, the point is, and I think what, the American government, trying to disband all these terrorist groups and cells and Al Qaeda and stuff like that, but they missed on the part of it, and this is where it comes to me a spiritual connection to it, and that's why so many groups and so many people are tied to religion, because there is a spiritual component to it, and it starts off at the core where only the core knows the goal, right? And who knows if it's going to continue from then on, because there's no central control, because we know that after a certain point the central control gets taken out. So there's no central leader. There was a time period where there was no this leader. There was a new leader every day with on the news. So there was a new leader of these Al Qaeda things, because they all went off of a mission independently, and they started operating independently. So each, almost like they say, sleeper cells, and they operate independently of each other, but according to a mission that was set from the core. Who knows if each independent mission will still stay on the course of the core, but at a certain point it becomes something only of rhythm, of a spiritual thing, because when you're so far detached from the core, the only way that you're on mission is there's no president to look up to and say, oh yes, we are all on mission, we're going to keep everybody under control like the army.
Mm-hmm.
You only know by what's in here, and I think that's how a lot of I think that's how we're operating in African American community, but we don't even understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you see people doing stuff like a dance that is the same dance that they were doing on West Coast Africa, since the beginning of time and stuff like that. And they were doing a certain dance, and them dudes is doing the Harlem Shuffle. If you put the cameras side by side, where did this beat come from? Nobody ever, certain things were carried on. If you think about how things were carried on through the slave ships, it was just carried on by a decentralized mission, by rhythm, by beat, by word of mouth, by slick talk. And so we're in this new age of when things are coming back and we don't know the actual source, but we feel, some of us that are in tune feel the message. And so you kind of come to a point where you come back to it when you're kind of out, at least, of the direct threat that you were under.
Well, I would have to say, I don't know. You brought up Al Qaeda, and I'm not sure of any war Al Qaeda has won. So I'm going to refer to a group that I know that's won a war against a bigger enemy. And if you go to Afghanistan, the Taliban are in control. Mm-hmm. And they may not have had a central location all the time, because once you take one of them out, another one pops up. The mission is still the same. And when you have a charter, or you have a way of doing things, you have the government the most powerful government in the world came in for 20 years, dropped bombs, dropped resources, dropped everything. And now the Taliban are more powerful today than they were 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
So, and the way they did that is they pick and choose, and they were patient. They didn't go and fight United States and the United States allies, and then they waited their time. They fought when they could. They saved their resources, and when the United States got tired of fighting that war across seas,
it's a war of attrition.
Right? They did what they supposed to do. Same thing in Vietnam. There's probably 10 times more Vietnamese died than Americans.
Oh,
they waited their time, They wait, bided their time, and they struck when the time suited itself. That is the only proven way. I don't know of any other proven way of how to defeat a group that is more powerful, more organized, that has more resources than you. If you could give me an example of when a group was able to fight different wars on different fronts against a more powerful enemy and was able to win, let me know. But Mark Lamont Hill and whoever else who wants blacks to fight these different fronts again for all these different groups, I want them to give me an example of one group that was able to fight on multiple fronts of a more powerful enemy and uh and win. Because I don't know one.
Yeah, but that would be assuming that you guys started, you and Mark Hill school of thought started from the same point. And I don't think, I think we're so fractionalized in African American community that a lot of us haven't started from the same point. We're all just moving in general spaces, and we're kind of loosely aligned by certain things. By race, by economics,
Mhm.
And then by, by a common enemy type of thing. But I think other than that, I think everybody's, so I'm at a point where I'm like, everybody, I just live and let live, right? I kind of let that operation go on as it is. And
Mhm.
hopefully I make it a lot. If I make a connection and I feel it's right, that connection may play a part in my strategy somewhere else down the line.
Mhm.
What Mark Lamont Hill is doing may play a part in my strategy somewhere else down the line. You may play a part in my strategy right now or tomorrow or somewhere else down the line. And because I don't think that there's any one strategy right now that we can say, oh, don't do that, do this, because we're not staying on code. I mean, you got folk that's that are all over the place in the black community. So I just don't think that I wouldn't say that there's any one strategy that I say works or is wrong or is not wrong.
But there has to be one. That's the problem. We don't have unity. We have
Right.
everybody doing what they want to do, living for themselves, doing things that's best for them and not for the community.
It's
That's
tribal.
the issue.
Yeah.
So like if no, like you have to do what's best for the group. That's kind of what I relate to back then. Like everybody else, when it comes to getting power for the group, they can put the religion and the issues that they have aside in order to fight those fights because the group benefits at the end of the day. The NFL owners hate each other, but if there's something that's going to hurt the NFL, they're all on the same board.
Right.
If you don't have to agree with everybody, but you have to agree that once you do agree, or once the majority agrees, that everybody's going in that same direction. And
Everybody
when I
gonna get
go
on
back to the
code.
NFL, yeah, they're highly competitive. NFL owners are highly competitive. They all want to win. They're all selfish. But when it comes to themselves, when it comes to them doing what's best for the group, that is when they make those decisions as a group, regardless of what everybody else has to say or what the differences are. And we have to get on one accord in order to make that strategy works, because you don't see um, other groups talking about what is best for them. Like when we talk about, say, interracial marriage, and I don't have any issues with anybody who's um, you know married to someone outside of the race, But the thing is, it makes no sense for someone who marries outside of the race to say they're pro-black when you didn't see the beauty in a black woman or a black man to marry a black man or black woman.
Right. Right.
So, you know, it's we have this multiple like this this individual mindset when we need to think what's best for the group, and what's best for the group is not fighting for other people's issues. I mean, it's just not. You can't do it. You can't. And a lot of what other groups would do, and like I said before, is to act like they're in an alliance for with another group, but their strategy is all along is to push their own accord. So we, we
Yeah.
don't need leaders or spokespeople for our group who's pushing us in the in conflict with somebody else, because if we can get what the what groups that have been successful done, they have benefited from both sides of a
Right.
conflict for their
Right.
own
Right.
advantage.
Which go just to support what you're saying. The kind of the saying is Palestine has no support, not just from America, or they have no support even in the Arab world. As they have support in from a few countries in the Arab world vocally. Maybe
Mhm.
a little bit in heart and political support, but that's about it. Their only support they get physically, monetarily, is from Iran. Right? Their next door neighbors have bailed on them, and
Well, yeah, I mean, I do agree. I mean, I don't know. I would have to push back on that a little bit, because I know Jordan and other countries in and around Israel has been supporting Hamas and things. They do have more support than just Iran. I think
what no,
Jordan and Hezbollah has been supporting.
Jordan is largely Palestinian. That's where the first large group of Palestinian refugees went when Israel was first
Mhm.
made, and there was that they called out that first Nakba and stuff like that. So their population is largely Palestinians from the 1940s and 50s and stuff like that. A lot of them
Mhm.
haven't gone back, and
Mhm.
they've ended up living in Jordan. But politically, recently, and I'd say recently, talking about since maybe the 80s and 90s, where Israel has gained so much U.S. support and so much Western support that Jordan, politically, the people in Jordan, the people in Egypt have all been playing nice with Israel and playing nice with the West, and they've kind of just accepted that the Palestinians were going to be kind of abandoned and living as second-class citizens for now, for their own benefit of their country, and because the West and Israel were able to put up these quasi puppet leaders in these other Muslim countries.
Mhm.
So the people may be, and so I think now, since this event happened, and it's almost like a paradigm shift,
Mhm.
where you got the people waking up and they're realizing, look, if our government doesn't start talking that real talk, there's
Mhm.
going to be a revolt in our country, and so
Right.
their government doesn't want that. So they're now changing their stance, and even in Saudi Arabia. But a lot of times we've put up puppets. I mean, and that's been the whole case with a lot of these countries in the Middle East. It's been U.S. Western meddling in there, putting in fake puppets, putting in these fake political leaders, having that, them think that they, the world think that these people represent the country, and they're just doing the bidding for us.
Well, I'm gonna have to wrap it up. I gotta put my baby to sleep
Yeah.
in a few minutes, but I will say this. It goes back to what I was saying before, is while we wrap our minds around what's going on in the Middle East, all the things that you just said, where you have a puppet government, you have U.S. meddling into politics, corruption, greed, all that is also in the African continent, sub-Saharan African continent, with people who look just like me and you. So, as we continue to focus on what this group is doing and what that group is doing, is taking the focus off of what people who look like me and you, because no matter where I've been, I've traveled a little bit around the world, and no matter where you've been in the world, the darkest area where the most melanin is in the people is the poorest area that you go to. The richer area is always lighter skin, and it's not like that for any
By design.
I mean, it's like that by design.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying all that to say, the more we focus on other people and get into the politics about who, that, and the third, the more we forget about ourselves, and that's just what it is.
Right. I'm going to keep what. Let me ask you this, and we're gonna talk a little more. I want to invite you back on.
Absolutely.
We might recap this topic here. I'm gonna look back over the footage and kind of dice it down, and just really focus on some of the areas that we should be focused on. I have a partner that went to school with, Haitian. He's from Haiti.
Okay.
Well, his family's from Haiti. We grew up in Long Island, New York, and he is now living in New Orleans. And this dude represents his country to the fullest. Everything that's going on, he has like some sort of, position. I'm not sure if it's position just by, just in name or stuff like that, but he's always going back to his country and stuff like that. I know it's been hell going on with Haiti. A couple of years ago, the president was assassinated, and he was also a puppet and stuff like that for U.S. businesses and stuff like that. So I would like to dig into that area also and talk about that. But
absolutely.
Say, what issues do you like talking about most? Is it you like talking about economics, world issues, or is are you free to kind of talk about things when I invite you back?
I love to talk about education. I love to talk about being self-sustained, whether that's through the Second Amendment, because that's one thing that I think Black people are starting to believe in, is we have the right to bear arms, and you have whatever the police have. You can't sit up and say that the police is corrupt and this, that, and the third, and then turn around and say that we need to get rid of AR-15s when the police have them.
Yes.
So
do you know Justin Luter?
No, I don't know him.
Justin Luter, okay, yeah, he's a Black firearms safety. He has give him a big shout out to Black Diamond training and gun facility. He owns that, and he's actually where he can actually purchase what's it called when you can purchase it and have it shipped from. I know you gotta go, but he's a good dude. We could actually talk about him about that. We're in a little gun club together, so Black.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
I live on. I got enough, and so. But we have to. I love to talk about education and preparing ourselves to be independent, and that's independent, whether it's mentally through growing our own food, living off our land or whatever the case may be, is getting back to those things that my grandmother instilled in me. Is you don't need to ask anybody for anything when you have this right here.
Yes.
When you know how to grow your own food, what do you need food stamps for?
Right.
When you know how to repair your own house, replace your own toilet, when you know how to do everything that needs to be
Let's
done,
do it.
can your
Yes.
own food, what do you need someone who doesn't like you to tell you or to do for you? Do for
Yes.
yourself.
Do it for yourself.
Right.
You got 14, I guess, aunts and uncles. I'm not sure if it's, what
Yeah.
the
So
situation
my mom had 14.
siblings.
Is one of 14, and my
Yes.
dad is one of 10.
Woo, yes.
So
So y'all, so you got, I say maybe 10% of Charlotte is y'all.
no, no.
Your family members or something like that, or spread out around here.
Yeah, we got a lot of family, and
Yeah.
I've never been, anywhere in the United States. I went too far from family, but
That's what's up.
yeah.
Yeah, good deal, man. We're gonna dig into some other areas. I like to use this platform. We're gonna do things to kind of spin up the drama on this platform. I like touching I like touching world news, but I like to bring it back to economics. So either when I edit this, if there's anything you want to do in your business, I can go ahead and put your information up here. We can work out a little commercial for you.
Okay.
It's gonna be spinning black businesses. Black independence. We buy black. Actually, that's who I need to contact. We buy black is a .com. Great website. They have all black economics. Black. They're like the black. What's it called? Amazon.
Right. Okay.
They're like a black Amazon. They got everything. So yeah, stuff like that. So definitely want to invite you back on. I love your perspective. Your perspective was detailed. It showed a reason why. It gave a specific reason why, a reason that I agree with. And we want to get that out to people and the rest of the community and hear everybody.
Absolutely. I'm interested. I'm excited. So
all right, Bo.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Anthony. And
any final words? Or you good? You gotta get to the
I mean, I think I hit on everything. It's just being independent and just doing what's best for the group. I mean, and the more independent, the more self-sufficient you are, the better it is for everybody else. Because if I need food, I know that I can borrow food from someone who also, is independent themselves, learning how to can, learning how to sew, learning how to, whatever the case may be. So that's how I see it, and I think that's something that we all have the ability to do.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that, Chris. And that's our slogan, just breaking bread. It's not by bread alone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. I appreciate it.
All right, boss.
All right. Yes, sir.
Good deal.